When the Lord was engaged in his pastimes of the rasa dance in the forest of Vrindavan, enlivening the sexual desires of the wives of the inhabitants of Vrindavan by sweet and melodious songs, a demon of the name Sankachuda, a rich follower of the treasure of heaven, Kubara, kidnapped the damsels, and the Lord severed his head from his trunk. Responsibly, when the Lord was engaged, in his pastimes of the rasa dance, in the forest of Vrindavan, enlivening the sexual desires of the wives of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, by sweet and melodious song, a demon of the name Sankachuda, a rich follower of the treasure of heaven, Kubera, kidnapped the damsels, and the Lord severed his head from his trunk. Report. We should carefully note that the statements described herein are the statements of Ramaji to Narada, and he was speaking to Narada of events that would happen in the future during the event of Lord Krishna. The pastimes of the Lord are known to the experts who are able to see past, present, and future, and Ramaji, being one of them, foretold what would happen in the future. The killing of Sankachuda by the Lord is a more recent incident after the Rasa Lila, and not exactly a simultaneous affair. In the previous verses, we have seen also that the Lord's engagement in the forest, in the affairs of the forest fire, were described along with his pastimes of punishing the Kaliya snake. And similarly, the pastimes of the rasa dance and the killing of Sankachuda are also described herein. The adjustment is that all these incidents would take place in the future, after the time when it was being foretold by Ramaji to Narada. The demon Sankachuda was killed by the Lord during his pastimes at Orika in the month of Falguna, and the same ceremony is still observed in India by the burning of the effigy of Sankachuda, one day prior to the Lord's pastimes at Orika, generally known as Holi. Generally, the future appearance and activities of the Lord, or his incarnations, are foretold in the scriptures, and thus the pseudo-incarnations are unable to cheat persons who are in knowledge of the events as they are described in the authoritative scriptures. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manabhistam Shakitam Dena Bhutale Swayam Rupakara Maya Gadati Swaparantika. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Gaurika Nanda Shri Radha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we see how Krishna is equal to everyone, but he's dealing differently. With the gopis, he's exchanging with them love, most intimate kind of love. And with Sankachuda, he's cutting off his head. So, what is the fault there? The fault is that the living entities misuse their independence, and therefore they become either intimate devotees or demons. It's up to them what they want to do. Krishna doesn't interfere with our independence. So we should take advantage of this opportunity that we have. We have this human form of life, developed consciousness. We can either choose to remain in the material world, chewing the chew, as Prahlad Maharaj calls it, or we can qualify to enter into the spiritual world. That's in our hands. By desire, we've come to the material world. By desire, we can go back to the spiritual world. But desire is the symptom of the soul. Desire is in our hands. So in order to prove that we want to go back to the spiritual world, we have to give up desiring material things. This will be the test. Because we can't stop desiring. But now we're desiring some material advantage. So the devotee, he's nishkama. He has no more material desire. So now we have to see, if we are honest with ourselves, do we still have hankering after material advantage? Or are we just using all our desire to qualify to enter into the spiritual world? because that's what it rests on, our desire. If our desire is strong, then nothing can check it. But how do we get that strong desire to enter into the spiritual world? We get that by associating with others who have it, who are enthusiastic about serving Krishna, who are enthusiastic about making spiritual progress. Then we'll see that enthusiasm is contagious. Probably get an example once of a story or a film. I don't know which it was, but he related to us that there was I think it was Charlie Chaplin or somebody, was given the service by his parents. He had to paint this white fence, big white picket fence around their property. And it was like a Saturday, and he was thinking, oh, man, I have to work like this all day. I'd rather be playing with my friends. So he had the paint and the buckets, and then some of his friends came. Then he started thinking how he could get out of working. So he took the paint and started very enthusiastically painting the fence. And just smiling and painting, and his friend came over and said, hey, let me try that for a while. So his friend took one, and then he got another bucket, and his other friends came. And before long, all his friends were painting the fence because he was so enthusiastic about it that they wanted to do it too. So that's the nature of enthusiasm. If somebody is very enthusiastic to chant Hare Krishna, to study the Shastra, then we'll also become caught up in that. Prabhupada once said that practically this whole movement is a spread on enthusiasm. Well, whose enthusiasm? His enthusiasm. It's true. Prabhupada was so enthusiastic that when we were with him, we also felt enthusiastic. I remember once Prabhupada in Calcutta, he called me into his room, and he'd gotten a letter from a big person in the DuPont company, the president, I think he was, vice president, Mr. Gajal, Indian. And he said, why don't you have a temple here in Taipei? It's a modern city. So Prabhupada was enthusiastic, yeah. And he was calling, he said. And he was so enthusiastic about having a temple in China. You know, it was Taipei, China. Taiwan. Taipei is the capital. So I couldn't help but be enthusiastic too, because he was enthusiastic. I said, well, yes, sure, I'll go. If you want me to go, I'll be happy to go. So, like that, Prabhupada spread the movement all over because he was so enthusiastic. So we have to be enthusiastic about devotional service. Otherwise, it becomes just something mechanical. Oh yes, I have to go on the altar. Oh yes, I have to, now I have to wake up for Mangala. We won't have, it'll become just duty. But that duty becomes joyfully performed when we're enthusiastic. So therefore, Rupa Goswami described, we should be enthusiastic, at the same time, patient. Because enthusiasm will give us a higher taste. By direct perception of the soul, by realization, which is described in the 9th chapter. We'll start to feel, this is real thing. If we're enthusiastically chanting, enthusiastically studying the scripture, or hearing the class. This is something tangible, substantial. And then we'll be able to be patient to our realization become more and more deep. And we're able to enter into the mystery of the Holy. There's a mystery there. The first mystery is, I'm not this body. People don't, even if we tell them, they can't understand it. It's a mystery. What do you mean, not this body? Well, in order to experience that, to get beyond the mysterious part of it, mystery means we don't know. So that will come by our acting on the spiritual platform. Then we'll begin to realize, yes, I'm not this body. We'll be able to see, we'll have realization that this body is moving in its own way, but I'm the observer of that body. I'm different than the body. But that realization will come more and more. Prabhupada had a full realization. Remember, I was giving a massage to him once, and he said, bring me that cloth. He was sitting in it. I was standing on his back. Behind him. And then I brought it to him, and I said, for the body? I thought maybe he wanted it for his body. He said, no, for the floor. But the way he said, for the floor, was just like the floor, the way I said body. Because in other words, he really saw that he was different than his body, just like he was different than the floor. And the way he said it, I got that realization that he was speaking from the platform of the soul. He knew he wasn't the body, and he knew he wasn't the floor. We know we're not the floor, but we think we're the body. So as we advance, that mystery will be uncovered for us. We'll be able to actually have that experience, just like Prabhupada had, that I'm not this body. And the second mystery is that Krishna is God. So these things will be uncovered to us, but we have to take the process. And to take the process, we have to do it enthusiastically. So how do we get that enthusiasm? Again, we get enthusiasm by associating with those who are enthusiastic. It's just like that experience of the painting the fence. Because he was enthusiastic, then his friends wanted to do it also. It looked like fun, because he was so enthusiastic. So, devotional service is not just that it looks like fun, it is the highest pleasure. But in order to experience that experience, we have to go into it. We have to go into it deeply. We have to become qualified. So then we'll be confident. Those three things Rupa Goswami discusses. Enthusiasm, patience, and then we're confident. What do you mean confident? Confident means nobody can dissuade us. So many arguments may be there, so many counterpoints, so many... No. We're confident. We're convinced. Therefore we can preach. We can go boldly. We can be bold. Although the devotee is humble by nature, he can be bold. Because on the behalf of the Lord, he's carrying the message. Therefore he's carrying it confidently. He's not shy about it. He's ready to tell everybody. We can go in front of the whole joint session of Congress, the biggest people in the world, and the president, and we can explain this. It's for their benefit, because we're confident. This is not some bluff. It's not something man-made, concocted. It's real, authorized knowledge coming from the proper source. And we've experienced that. We've had a chance to apply it in our life, and we see the result. We may feel that we have a long way to go, but we've already experienced how far we've come. That's everybody has taken a Krishna consciousness can see that. How we're free from our bad habits, at least to a great degree compared to what we were. So, therefore, we should be confident. It's not a bluff, it's something substantial. So with that kind of confidence, then we can go anywhere and broadcast the message of the Lord. And Krishna will help us. Krishna will give us the, you can say, what we need. He promises, I'll carry what you lack, I'll provide what you need. So, we shouldn't be afraid to go and to broadcast this message. Because it's not ours, it's coming from the Lord. He's sending knowledge. And we're just repeating it. But not just repeating it, because we've applied it in our life, and we see the result is there. So it's not some kind of fanaticism that we heard something and we're just repeating without having the realization. That's the fanatics are like that. They don't have the realization, but they're just doing it anyway, in a fanatical way, because of love of self. They think this is my religion, therefore it must be the best. That's the mentality. Everybody loves himself the most, and so I'm born a Muslim or Christian or Hindu, therefore it must be the best. And so they're just fanatically pushing. Or else they don't practice. They've given up on it to some degree. I saw a sign yesterday. It said near a church in St. Augustine. It said, all Catholics who may have drifted away, why not come by? We have a nice mood here, something like that. Catholic church. Trying to get people. But that's the other side. People lose their religion, they're not interested. Or else they become fanatical. So, we have the center path. We're not drifting away, and we're not fanatical. Because we're applying it in a proper way, under the guidance of the spiritual master.